This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
I was trying to get it how I live. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired. I don't get tired.
And we are still not tired on this week's episode of Two Bad Hombres. I am your host, Vito Geronimo, alongside my usual sidekick and broadcast partner in fun. That is the expert from Doc and Jock and John Charles Macaroon. John, you're loving that right there. I'm showering you with some love here as we start off this, last episode, of Two Bad Hombres before Christmas, actually. John, how are you, and how are you keeping up with the rush and the busyness of the holiday season?
Vito, first and foremost, sometimes you have to show appreciation for the little things, and it's so nice to be able to see everybody. I got a chance to get a new eye exam, and I went like 5 days without a pair of glasses because my old ones broke. And the funny thing is that, you know, you go and you get an eye exam, you wait it out, and you go and you pick out your glasses. And I picked out 2 that I really like. And I said, look, you know, I broke my last pair of glasses. I can't find the backup. So can you guys hurry this up? The doctor's like, yeah, no problem. We'll, usually takes 2 weeks, but we've been getting glasses. And especially since, you know, you got the quote unquote basic and the cheapest glasses possible. You know what? You don't have all this stuff needed to the glasses. We'll get it back faster. And I'm like, yes, thank you. So then you go sit down and you're like, okay, the doctor told me we can maybe get this in faster. And he's like, yeah, it's going to take maybe 5 to 8 days. I'm like, is there any way to get it faster? Like, look, if you throw me an option to pay like $20, $30, $50, I'll pay it to get the glasses in 3 days. And so they're like, look, it'll just come in and we'll call you. So I wait, and I had to jerry-rig the old glasses that were broken so I could drive. And I saw a bunch of clients for a week, basically, you know, with blurry vision. And I called every...
So you didn't even know who it was?
No, I
you
can
were
see.
talking to the person.
I can see. I can make the person out.
Who is this?
It's just not as clear.
Uh-huh.
And so, did they call me? No. So by the 4th and 5th day, I start calling every single day. And you know, here's the funny part. So after the 5th day, I call, and they're like, "Oh yeah, one of them's in." You think I specified that I needed these glasses. And so I just want to start off this podcast ranting and raving about how unprofessional people are and how nobody really cares about their job and are not experts at their job. And so, hence, that's why you're going to call me the expert, because in this podcasting game, I've definitely paid attention. I've tried my best to learn and keep up with everything in terms of technology. And so, yes, I am an expert. I'm going to claim it. And we'll talk about something that happened to you and something that is very interesting to me in terms of dynamics of how people do their jobs that are quote-unquote experts. But anyways, I walk in there, get my first pair, and I say, look, when the next one comes in, please call me as soon as possible. I can get here as fast as possible. I live right around here. I work right around here. I need these glasses. And especially this, the first pair was the backup, the ones I'm going to intend to use as a backup. So I wait another day or two. Now it's Monday of the week, and I'm like, you know what? I know that the backup is just sitting there, and they're not going to call me. So finally I call, and they're like, yep, they're here. I'm like, you guys are terrible. I had to call and hunt you down, you know, and I told my wife, I said, I'm going to triple check everybody. And that's what you got to do these days. You got to triple check everything. You got to make a statement. You got to double check and triple check everybody, because nobody cares. Nobody is even trying to do their job. And Vito, it really started last weekend. When the weekend started, I was just getting a laugh, and I probably am the only one that laughs at this, and I'm fully fine to admit it, but for the better part of 14 years since I've graduated school, I've used a student discount for movies.
I can't believe that. I saw that ID. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? I've never seen this guy. Much different looking, much sexier and better looking. What happened to that guy, Doc?
40 pounds in marriage.
40 pounds, a wife, and 2 kids later, right?
Exactly. So I have my old Detroit Mercy ID, and what I do is I cover the face, and I just point up to the window, and I say, student.
How you get away with that,
My
man?
wife is so embarrassed, she just goes into the door and makes me go pay, but I have no problem doing it until I get caught. Now, Vito, I've done it. Let's say you go to maybe a dozen or 2 dozen movies a year for a decade, okay? 200 movies I've gone and flashed this ID. How many times has anybody ever taken a serious look at it and asked me to slide the thing under the window? Because if you do, it says on it, issued 2001. So I've saved $2 off a movie for the better part.
Since 01.
Since
You've
01.
been doing that.
20% off.
I just can't believe that people are this stupid. Don't look. They don't pay attention when they're doing their jobs.
They don't even look. And
Yeah.
I'm bald. Vito,
That's
I'm a
pitiful,
40-year-old
man.
bald guy.
Yeah, you look a lot different than that picture, man, and what you look like in '01. Well, once again, you were good looking and handsome, and then
What do you make of
something
it
happened
now?
It's hilarious to me.
Am I a dipshit for doing it, or should I just keep doing it because people are stupid? They don't care. I've recognized that at some point, people that make less than $15 an hour really don't give a shit about their job.
No.
You can just walk up and do anything and try to manipulate and game the system. So I'm like, you know what?
Keep doing it until somebody tells you to stop, right?
Until
Then you can't do it anymore.
somebody tells me to stop.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep doing it. I saved $2. I showed you a ticket. My wife's ticket was $9. Mine was $7.
But doesn't she get pissed at you? She doesn't tell you, John, don't do this to me. Please don't embarrass me.
No, she smirks, and I say, honey, I give the argument that I give everybody else. They don't check it. I get it every time.
So
Why not?
keep manipulating and scamming the system. And you love scamming the system.
I don't love scamming the system. It's just people don't care. So if you say student discount and you charge less at a movie, you just do it. And so I'm 40 years old and I'm still getting a student discount. And like I said, they don't even check. Like I would be shamed if they asked and I'd say, okay, you know what, fine. And then we'd have
what would you say? Yeah, what would you say in response if they caught you?
I'd say,
when they do, I hope they do.
I would
sooner
admit,
than later.
I'd say I've been doing this for 15 years. You're the first. Congratulations. I'll pay the full price. No problem. And so now it plays into, again, a situation that happened between you and I in that I got you an upgraded recorder that can take 2 microphones so you can have a podcast conversation. The one before where you see Vito interviewing people is just him with one mic giving it back and forth. So I'm like, Vito deserves better. He's going to go out there and interview some big people, and Vito's sit-down is going to have a big year in 2019. I wanted to give you the proper gear. And so I looked and I said, okay, I know the gear that it takes, but there's variations of the wires that you can get. So I started to look and research and send you YouTube videos going back and forth going, no, this is the right one. No, that's the right one. And I sent you the proper video, but I didn't say, Vito, go specifically get this one. I said, go to Guitar City and ask. That's my fault because you assume that these people are experts and they care about their job. And so I said, take the recorder with the assumption that when you went to buy a wire to connect the microphone to the recorder, that you would take the wire out and stick it into the recorder and test it. But, you go to Guitar City, you do your due diligence.
Guitar Center.
Yeah, you go to, I'm not giving the proper name, I'm give them the respect even because they're such dipshits. You go to Guitar Center and you give them the information and they give you a wire and they go against what I said. And you're like, is this the one? I'm like, no, absolutely not. You're like, okay, I'm going to test it out and I'm going to text you. I'm like, Vito, you don't have to text me. I know the gear. I know it inside and out because prior to doing this project, I didn't just upload a podcast and just start doing it. I researched it for months. Like, how do you do it? What makes it good? How do you get your product from, the ground up to the internet? I researched what the proper gear was. I researched how to make it sound really good. So I'm an expert in audio at this point in time in terms of podcasting, how to take microphones, how to connect it to gear and upload it and record it. So up until that point, I'm like, Vito, you got the wrong shit. And I'm like, it didn't make any sense. I'm like, okay, fine. You got it. Did you get 2 of them? You're like, no. I'm like, how are you going to test it out? The purpose is to test out what it is in a real live setting, what you're doing. And so the dumb fuck at Guitar Center gave you the wrong information, doesn't know as much as a guy that's not even in the business. And it's so frustrating because I'm not supposed to be the guy that has the right answer. All I did was research on YouTube and read and take time and care and really wanted to be right because I wanted you to do this in a way that could further the cause so that you don't go, oh, I'm just podcasting and taking this and keep complaining about this and that. And I wanted it so that it'd be easy for you. You could have a beer, have your vitamin water, and have conversation with people in a more natural setting. And so I got you the gear. It's just stupid that experts, quote unquote, that are supposed to know these things don't even know how to connect a microphone to a Tascam recorder. It's bullshit. It's stupid. At the very least, they should be able to, there at the job, go to YouTube and find the videos that I got. And they weren't able to do it. It made it funny for me because I was just like, dude, this is some next level bullshit here. This is a continuation of my theory that nobody gives a shit. And I've tweeted it out thousands of times. A lot of people that don't have success, they come up with this language that is toxic in that they make excuses, they don't learn, they don't make, progress, they don't pay attention so that they get easily manipulated. And it's not right. But I do understand how they were just a little bit off. In that they were probably thinking their mind about how to connect a microphone maybe to a guitar or a mixer and things like that. So I definitely, I'm not as angry as I would have been if I had gone there. But I realize, when you assume that people that you're talking to don't know shit, You actually get stuff done because you're sharper. You pay attention. You ask more questions. And I realized that, sometimes when you start putting common sense together, the things that some people will tell you don't make sense in terms of the logical explanation of how things go. So as you get older, I'm glad this happened to you so you could realize that, yes, Doc is the expert. That's why I'm paid the big bucks. That's why I dole out and decide who gets paid what and who gets stuff, aired at what time. I'm older than you, and sometimes I have to.
You are older than me.
A lot older. A decade and a half of this. I've experienced more than you. So I'm glad this actually happened. It pisses me off. I'm glad this happened so you could see that just because somebody tells you they're an expert, you still got to fall back to the guy that's, sending you message after message after message going, oh, no, this is right. Oh, no, I was wrong. Oh, yeah, I was right. Here's this video. So obviously I care more because I wanted this to happen, and I can't wait to hear some of the projects and some of the guests that you've got lined up. But lesson learned here is people don't give a shit. They're not as passionate about their jobs. And now in Michigan, people probably going to be high off their ass half the time anyway. So realize that, ask questions, double and triple check everything, and you can't just count on people that you give money to actually know what they're doing. So be prepared and realize that some people just don't know jack shit about what they're talking about. And sometimes, for me, it's actually funny to go in there and start, talking shit back to them and be like, this is what you do? You don't even know how to connect a fucking, microphone to a simple task cam? Come on now, I know how to do it. And if I know how to do it and you don't, God help you, man. You're going to be a fucking moron your whole life.
Well, there's something wrong with that picture. The only thing is, one of the guys is an older dude and older than you.
Fuck him.
So, and you said you're going to be an effing moron your whole entire life. Well, this guy already has lived his whole entire life, it looks like. I mean, he's much older than you, so I'm thinking of that as you just said that. And I think you have to trust somebody, trust in something, but they should have known this.
Yeah, the part that burns me the most is I sent you. I said, this is probably what it needs, and he dissuaded you. He said, no.
He dissuaded me completely. I showed him the photos. I brought the recorder. I told him what I needed it for 2 mics, and no help. No great guidance. He led me in the wrong direction, and then I come in here with the erroneous equipment of the day of this recording and look foolish, and you were dumbfounded hearing all this from me the night before this recording. I know you were, because you were thinking, I gave you the right stuff to get. I have the info, follow this, and then the guy dissuades me. You're dumbfounded, but now you're basking in the glory of knowing that you were right and they were wrong.
The best was Vito busts out the mic and is like, I'm not sure that I can connect it. And he's got this long, dangly wire that's all tore up. And I'm like, what the hell is that? I was confused by what I saw. I'm like, oh, you broke the mic? And he's like, no, it's like, this is on it.
It's just hanging like this, man. Come on.
Vito, there's a thing called a latch. And you just push it and it comes off. And I was like, oh, thank God. Okay, because
thank God you were here to help me out with this. And that's why you are the expert. I got to bow down to you and say that before the holidays here.
We tested the gear. We had fun with it. And Vito's now locked and loaded with advanced gear. So be ready, world. Vito's going to come for a sit down and have a conversation. It's going to be funny. But yeah, to start the podcast, I feel better. People don't give a shit. Everyone's fucking dumb. And it's funny to realize that, if you care about something a lot, you're more passionate and you're more willing to ask questions and probe and things like that. And more willing to, try things and try it over and over and over despite failure. And my one success, Vito, is that when this podcast comes out, I'll probably be sleeping because Friday evening I will have covered Michigan State, Oakland in East Lansing. I finally got a credential to cover a basketball game in East Lansing. And it took 4 years, basically 4 years of applying to 1 or 2 games a year for Michigan State, my alma mater, okay, the school I definitely was passionate about going to. Now, I'm not going to root for them, but obviously I wanted to cover. But you
want to root for them while you're there.
I obviously had a chance now to cover them in the NCAA at the biggest stage, and it just kind of always rubbed me the wrong way that I was always getting denied by my alma mater, especially after having in the credential saying, look, I'm an alum, and I'm, willing to cover the game. I got an audience. They saw the audition tape for the Tigers, and they were like, "Oh, God,
forget you,
forget you,
adios."
But I was, trying, but I didn't give up. And so finally, I told them about my relationship with Oakland, and thank goodness for them. And I'm so excited to have been able to cover Michigan State basketball in East Lansing, and hopefully, like I said, the locker rooms were open, and we can share how that went down on future editions of the podcast.
And now that edition might be, way after the holidays, or a couple of weeks from now, because I think when I do the next two Bad Hombres, it won't be with you. You won't be in studio with me. We won't be in studio doing it. But now I have the lovely recording device, courtesy of you once again. And let me bow down and congratulate you on that. And thank you once again.
You didn't even offer to invite yourself to my house. I would have got you a beer. We can record the podcast in my house.
I guess done that with me. Now, I might have said, no, thank you, though. Or
Exactly.
thank you next, like Ariana Grande did with her song. But anyway, you didn't even ask me about my weekend. Haven't even talked about it yet. Not that you care about what I did this past weekend, but I went to a Pistons game. A glorious fun.
You know what?
Because the Pistons won, too, by the way, in that game.
Before I intro that, partly I was a little bit down about that, okay? I'll share my feelings here about this, in that when you're self-employed, it has a lot of perks. You can take off as much as you want. You can set a schedule. You make the brunt of the money. But here's the thing.
You are making the brunt of the money, yes.
When you're self-employed and you work in a medical office, sometimes when you work alone, there's not a chance for the DOC to go to any Christmas parties.
There aren't Christmas parties. I have a ton of them that have happened that are coming up, too.
And so, being that a lot of my friends are in radio, they're in, like, big corporations, they're in places that work with us, the DOC doesn't have a chance. So, do you know how many Christmas parties I've gone to this year?
Absolutely zero.
None. And I'm like, Vito, I got you the Christmas present. I dropped it off. You didn't even offer me a pasta or a wine or nothing. We had some small chit-chat, but...
that's all I could really stand, was a small chit-chat.
And then you're like, Doc, I'm going to the Palace with my Top Cat crew. I'm like, oh, okay, it's nice. But I do want to hear how it went. You know, you probably got decent tickets. It was against Boston on a back-to-back, so it might have been a fun experience. So now that the jealousy's out of the way, I'm feeling a lot better now because... obviously, I've gone on a couple of dates with the wife. Things are going well. Things are slowing down a little bit in the practice, so I have a little bit more time to hang out and have some fun. So indulge me with your stories about this
would
party.
love to.
What happened?
Now, I heard you say you went on a couple of dates. I didn't know how you were going to complete that sentence. I'm glad you said you went on a couple of dates with your wife.
Yes.
Very good. So you're feeling jolly, right? I'm trying to feel jolly.
Yes.
I think we are now in the holiday season.
Yes.
And I went to the Pistons game last weekend. It was against the Boston Celtics. So Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, all of these guys, good players that the Pistons don't have. Right?
Courtesy of
Top Cat Sales. So we were in this club seat section, the Raymond Club seats, where you had access to alcohol, food aplenty, not all the alcohol there. You had to pay for some of it for the mixed drinks, but 4 beers were on tap, including Bud Light and a couple of Bud Lights, and didn't really live it up extremely, but had some fun with my colleagues at Top Cat Sales, and a lot of good food, a lot of good conversation, joking around. My buddy Nick Schmiegel was there. We were conversing and joking around. He sat with me in the section. There was an extra ticket or two. I guess you weren't granted the access to get that extra ticket or two from me because there were a couple of people that dropped out the day of and left open a couple of seats to be taken. And I said, well, I'm going to invite not you, but in things that Doc wasn't invited to. Remember, we used to do that segment every single time leading off Two Bad Hombres. Well,
what the
it
fuck?
was an event that I did that you weren't invited to once again.
So
sorry about that.
I had a feeling, too. Okay.
An extra seat. Only
wait.
one extra ticket, by the way. Come on now.
Okay, I can't be too
Nick
mad.
Schmiegel's known me for longer than you two, which is true.
Yeah, here's the thing, and here's the funny part about life sometimes as you get older, is you think about things.
You started thinking of that, and there could have been the possibility?
No, here's how it went down. I said, okay, you know what? Vito's got this ticket to go and hang out with Top Cat. I wonder if it's in a suite. I wonder if he would have had a chance to take an and one. Why wouldn't he just like mention me? I'm like, oh, why would he take you? You're an old fuck and you don't care and you're not that funny. And
you just described all of it for why you weren't taken.
But part of that thinking of why I was bummed out, I'm like, man, I can't even get an invite, like a charity invite. And I'm like, I'm like, Nick's there. And so then I saw that. And I'm like, wait a minute. Oh,
Vito's there too. Vito and Nick. Wait,
I know.
Nick doesn't work for Top Cat, but
Nick don't work for Top Cat. But you had an extra ticket that you could have invited a guest, and you took
he begged
Nick.
me. He begged me. You didn't beg me. He begged me. He did want to go. He did ask. We were at the Detroit Mercy game earlier in the day. Then we were at the post-game press conference. Saw Mike Davis. You saw the questions that I asked of him, via video that I posted on Twitter.
So he said, can I come?
And Nick wanted to go. We met for a drink after that. We went right from Detroit Mercy to eat at Imperial, first in Ferndale. Then we went for a drink at this bar in Ferndale. Then we drove from Ferndale to Little Caesars Arena, not the Palace, Little Caesars Arena, watched the Pistons game, took in a Pistons victory, of all things, against the Celtics, too. A quality W in which Reggie Rue, didn't really even play down the stretch. Jose Calderon, this aging vet, played more minutes, quality minutes down the stretch than Reggie Jackson, who's making all of this money, a boatload of money, and Jose Calderon plays, and the Pistons win the game. What does that say about Reggie Jackson and the quality of this Pistons team with Reggie?
Well, I think everybody that's watching the Pistons kind of realizes it's not a fit. Reggie makes a lot of money, $17, $18 million a year, And unfortunately, in Dwayne Casey's offense, he just doesn't fit. And you can't move him. So what's happened is his role is kind of diminished. And so you see Jose Calderon, the Pistons like the fact that he can inbound the ball as a proven leader.
Just do smart things.
So what's happening with the Pistons is that I think a lot of fans are realizing there's an over-reliance on Blake Griffin to run the offense, to distribute the ball, and he's just doing too much. And in a game where a recent loss that the Pistons had versus the Bucks, one of the top teams in the Central, in the fourth quarter, the ball kind of stopped moving and the offense kind of bogged down. And what tends to happen with the Pistons is they give the ball to Blake and they run an ISO play, and all of a sudden, you know what? Teams can lock down on that. And if Blake misses shots, there's going to be turnovers and there's going to be situations in which the offense gets bogged down. So there's a big problem going on in that I think this offense for the Pistons doesn't suit Reggie Jackson, and they realize it, and he realizes it, the organization realizes it, but they're stuck. This big three of Andre, Blake, and Reggie, if you have a good team, you don't have two extended losing streaks, one of 5 and one of 6 games. That's pretty bad. And then the loss that they had to Charlotte was completely unacceptable. The win versus Boston is nullified because it was on a back-to-back. It's kind of a schedule loss. Boston was missing a bunch of shots. All their shots were short. And so right now, the thing that upsets a lot of fans about the Pistons is there's no direction. It's kind of a team that's there. They're trying to compete to be the 6th seed in the East, in an East that's not that good, and everybody doesn't believe. They don't like, unfortunately, the Pistons are trying to sell the fan base a group of players that the fans just don't like. They don't accept that Andre Drummond is a max player. He's not. He's a guy that's a good player, but a guy that you're giving max dollars to? No, he's not a max player. He's one-dimensional. He's a great rebounder, but he's got limited offensive skills at times, and there are times when guys like Joel Embiid, the premier elite athletes, just destroy him. And it's not proper, and you look at it and you go, Tom Gores is running this team in a way that's not conducive to winning at all. And that's what's up with the Pistons. And to be honest, I haven't paid for a ticket in about 3 years. You can get free tickets pretty easily with the Pistons.
Courtesy of Top Cat Sales, maybe if you were invited to go attend as part of the party.
Yeah, you can get tickets to attend and cover these games. It's not that difficult. And right now, the Pistons just got to find a direction. And unfortunately, in the age of sports we're in 2018, it's either tank, get top 5 talent, or go for it and assemble a real team. And I think once the move was made for Blake Griffin, you realize, holy cow, Blake Griffin, a guy's 29 years old that's never won. That's not a piece. That's a guy that's just a talent. That's a guy that was intended to just put asses in the seats. And unfortunately, with Little Caesars Arena, if you're not going via company route or things like that, it's just sometimes not worth it to go. You can sit at home and have a beer and eat all the food you want, and the team with the Pistons jacks up a bunch of threes, and sometimes they don't make them. And so that quality level of basketball is conducive right now for the Pistons only to draw when other good teams come in, like Philly, Boston, the Warriors. And unfortunately, you look around Little Caesars Arena, and people are wearing other jerseys. It's just not a likable team. Unfortunately, whatever they've tried to do, the Pistons right now are just not relatable and likable. I think most of the fans want a new team. Just give us a new team. And even if we're going to lose every game, they'd rather do it with a brand new team, not these guys. Especially, Luke Kennard, unfortunately, is just handcuffed by the fact that there was a better player that could have been taken, Donovan Mitchell. And unfortunately for Luke Kennard, he's getting a little bit better. He's having flashes, but he's just not that good. Unfortunately, most of the fans, when you talk about Pistons, are just like, text me when they've traded everybody. And it's not going to be for another year or two. But you had a good time. Did you get drunk?
I didn't get drunk.
Good. You're professional?
I don't drink like that, Doc. Come on, I don't drink like a fish, especially at a party, an event for a company. Come on.
Were there any colleagues that maybe indulged a little too much?
Yeah, did more than me, so it happened. But Vito Churko isn't going to do that. Now, the Pistons, you know what? They have a problem. You're right. To answer or talk about that a little bit, they're in a rut, stuck in that and in the middle of the road, middle of the pack in the East, and with no sense of direction. Where do they go from here? Pistons don't want, the fans don't want Reggie Jackson. They don't want Andre Drummond. And guess what? You're not going to win with this team. You're going to be the 5th seed at best in the East, probably the 6th seed as they are right now. And they're a team that's barely over 5. I mean, a team that's been hovering around 500 all year long, has been over 500, then 500. They're an average team that's a little bit above average, actually. They can finish above 500 this season, but how high above 500? It's not going to be terrifically above, and they're not going to be a top 3, top 4 team in the East. So with this collection of talent assembled, and the supposed big 3 of Reggie Jackson, Blake Griffin, and Andre Drummond, which, by the way, is not a true big 3, the best they can do in their ceiling is being the 5th best team probably, and more like the 6th best team in the East, which is more of a watered down Eastern Conference now that LeBron James has left the East for the Western Conference and the Los Angeles Lakers. So you look at the Pistons and what the fans want and what the team really needs is to tank. You don't want to be a middle-of-the-road team as they are right now, meaning they're stuck in a rut. You don't want that as an organization. You need either, to be a team that can be in a win-now mode, truly win it all, or be a team that is tanking, and they're not actively doing either thing.
Do you think that by maybe going out and acquiring a trouble player from another organization, Markelle Fultz was a former number 1 overall pick, but unfortunately he's kind of struggled a little bit with injury or mental problems, as some people are, starting to maybe think about him. And I think that a change of scenery might be good for Markelle Fultz, but I'm not sure what the asking price is going to be. But would you give up a first-round pick for Markelle Fultz to bring him here?
He can't shoot. He lost a shot. I can shoot better at the Macomb Rec Center right now than Markelle Fultz. I can beat him in a game up to 21, a game of sevens. I would beat him right on a long-distance shooting contest more than likely. Maybe I'm just counting myself up a little bit too much. Probably, yeah, I'm being too overly optimistic about my game. But Markelle Fultz's game is in the dumps right now, man. It really is. He has to rejuvenate his shooting stroke and go through a process of redeveloping what he once had as a shooter. He no longer has that shooting stroke necessary to be a guy that is a contributor at the NBA level, that you can rely upon even off of your bench to make a shot, to make a three here and there. He is not that type of shooter or scorer right now, and not the guy that the Sixers thought they were getting when they drafted him number 1 overall in the 2017 NBA draft.
Understood. And so it's just one of those things where you peek into the Pistons, but don't get your hopes up too much. It's not likely to produce anything that you're going to be really proud of in the next year or two.
No, because they're not going anywhere. They're stuck in a rut. They're stuck in the middle. When you're stuck in the middle, it means really you're not a quality product to watch in any facet, and there's no hope for the team in any facet. Not for the case of the team getting better for the long-term future by tanking or being in the win-now mode, meaning they can win an Eastern Conference title right now. They can't do that right now, meaning they're stuck in the middle of the road once again, and it means the attendance at Little Caesars Arena will continue being the way that it has been, which has been relatively a lackluster crowd, game to game, because the fans realize there's nothing this team is playing for, and it's not trying to get better for the future. And I know the fans wouldn't show up for that if the team was tanking either. And I know the Pistons and owner Tom Gores, they fear that. Well, if we tank it, nobody's going to be showing up for this product. Well, guess what? They're not showing up right now, or barely are showing up right now to Little Caesars Arena on a nightly basis for Pistons games. So I would say go tanking, baby. Go out and fully tank, embrace tank mode, because you're not going anywhere with this current iteration of the Pistons.
Yeah, Vito, very well said. Let's take our first time out. We'll come back second half of the podcast. One of your colleagues definitely wrote an article that was interesting, discussing how Lions fans should treat the younger generation in terms of their suffering. And some people are wondering, should you cut your kids off from watching the Lions? I'll get your take on that. And we'll finish the podcast off talking about Matt Damon's performance in the 2018 finale of a Christmas-themed Saturday Night Live. And then you got some news regarding the president. I know you want to always talk about that. And
I got to throw it in there.
A former apprentice staffer came out with some allegations that are very interesting. So stay tuned. Two Bad Hombres rolls along.
And Doc, now to our two sponsors of Two Bad Hombres on a weekly basis. And first and foremost, starting with the Legacy Football Organization, which was founded in 2009. It is a premier off-season development program in the state of Michigan, in the Midwest, and the entire U.S. of A. It provides unique platforms for student athletes on and off the football field through community service, social awareness, education, and football. And the Legacy Football Organization consists of a staff of former collegiate stars and legendary NFL players such as Jesse Sapolu, a former guest on Two Bad Hombres, and legendary Lions wide receiver Herman Moore. To find out more about the Legacy Football Organization and all of the events they are hosting and organizing before the end of this year and into the new year, please contact National Director of Football Ops for Legacy Football, Justin Sassante, or go online to Legacy Football's terrific website at www.legacyfootballorg.com. And now to Bad Hombres' second sponsor, and also a fine sponsor and a longtime partner now in Top Cat Sales. And if you are looking for apparel for your team, for your business, for your corporation, for your club sports team even, then look no further than Top Cat Team Sales. Through founder and owner John Wangler's leadership, Top Cat has developed a tradition of selling and distributing apparel with the very highest quality and the very best service with brands like Adidas. So get your team, get your small business, get your corporation, get your club sports team, get your high school, all in with Top Cat Monday through Friday by calling Top Cat Sales at 248-246-1054. Once again, the phone number for Top Cat is area code 248-246-1054. And also remember to follow Top Cat Sales on Twitter at Team Top Cat. And back here on Two Bad Hombres, I am your host, Vito Geronimo Churko. That is my sidekick and partner in crime across the table from me in the Sterling Heights studios as usual, in John McElroon. And John, we have a few topics.
An expert in multiple domains. Thank you.
There you go, multidimensional. So you have so much expertise to lend to me in my life, and you already have. And now moving on from all of that praise for you to, how about the Lions? Jeff Seidel, a columnist for the Detroit Free Press, came out with this column recently about whether or not you should cut your kids from watching the Lions. Cut them off completely. Should you do so with your daughters, John?
If you follow us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, we have a new hashtag. It's hashtag We Suffer Together. And hell no, I'm not going to ever jump off of the bandwagon of the Detroit Lions. Okay? They're the hometown team. They represent Detroit. Yes. Do they suck? Yes. Are they among one of the worst organizations in the history of professional sports? Yes. But hashtag We Suffer Together. And what that means is, look, yes, sometimes our account is a little bit critical of the Lions, but it's because we want to win. If we were real dicks and assholes, we would ignore the Lions like we do other organizations. So, the Lions are interesting. The Lions, have a history of ineptness, okay? And what happens is that you invest a little bit of time and energy into it. And look, I've put a lot into it already. Do I have hope if you ask me the Lions are ever going to win? No, hell no. I think they're going to suck forever. I think they're going to ride out Matthew Stafford maybe for another decade, and I'll be 50 years old before we get the next quarterback. But in the end, I'm a fan of the Lions. And will my girls be a fan of the Lions? I hope so. But
are they even sports fans yet? They probably are too young right now, right, to really be sports fans too.
They like soccer. They like European soccer, and they like when the American men's team and women's team play, and international stuff. So it's good. So they enjoy it. And so what's going on now, people are wondering, okay, there was a documentary made called Heart of a Lions Fan that kind of answers the question why Lions fans are passionate. Now, I'm not to the level where I'm going to wear like padded, uniforms and scream my head off.
Good God, please don't do that.
No, I'm not.
I would leave this podcast network right away if that was the case.
But I will go from time to time and cheer and hope they win and things like that. But right now, I'm definitely aboard Team Tank because of the fact that the organization needs better talent. And of course, Bob Quinn could go out and find talent at 15, but the odds are more likely that he'll hit on a draft pick if he's top 5. Stafford was drafted number 1, Calvin number 2, I think Barry Sanders number 3, a top 5 pick. So you realize a lot of your top players were picked at a high end. And so don't let the Lions' god-awful history ruin what is probably needed to help this team win. 1, move on from Stafford. 2, start drafting at a little bit of a higher clip. Demand that the team tank and try and rebuild. And unfortunately, what's going on is a lot of teams with younger quarterbacks that are cheaper are moving ahead. And unfortunately, for the Lions, it's just a situation in which they're stuck in mediocrity and less than that. But I do think Bob Quinn is slowly bringing on some more talent. We see Kenny Galladay making plays. We see Kerryon Johnson when he's on the field making plays. So will I want my daughters to be Detroit Lions fan? Am I going to promote anybody jumping off? Hell no. My boy Kenny did that 5 years ago. He's like, bam, I'm out. Maybe even more, a decade or so. He's been a fan of the Broncos. We were season ticket holders. We suffered together. We tailgated. We bought tickets. We went 8 to 10 times a year. And, we cheered and screamed our head off during the entire Millen era. Did it result in anything? No, it was a big waste of fucking money. But we had a good time. And I'll never forget those memories. They'll live with me forever. I am a fan of the Lions. I rep Detroit. I don't rep any other sporting thing outside of Detroit. Nothing. I'm not taking a B team. I'm not going to root for anything else. I'm rooting
for
no
side piece team.
No side piece team. I'm sticking with the Lions. And look, if you want to be like one of those people that's like, if you're not ride or die, unconditional about everything, then you're not a real fan. Well, screw you then. I don't care. There's no, fan Hall of Fame where, you're ranked as the number one best fan on the history of the earth. I'm a fan of the Lions. I talk about them. I podcasted about them. And it's a situation in which you try your absolute best to support the team, and you be critical because you want them to win. But I hope my girls support the Lions because it'll be a fun time in the future.
Well, I think everybody needs a critical point of view when it comes to matters that deal with life, deal with sports, whatever it may be in the world today. And moving forward, I think you need to have that critical point of view about your favorite team, about your best friend, about your mom and dad. You need to be critical of what they do because you don't have to embrace and fully love everything that your mom and dad or your brother or sister or friends do, or that your favorite sports team does. So when there is a time to criticize the Lions, there is that time to do it, and you go out and do so. So I have no problem with being critical of the Lions. Now, am I going to totally tell my kid, hey, don't go support the Lions if I have kids one day? I don't expect to do that. I don't expect to be that kind of a father. And I'm not totally ride and die with the Lions, but I don't have a B team myself. I don't have a side piece. I'm not into side pieces of any kind. And not for NFL franchises. I don't have any intent, any plan of doing that in the future of gaining another team where I'll have fandom of that team. For me, it is the Lions, even though I'm not intently and avidly watching every single Sunday the Lions and what they do, because I don't want to see them lay an egg every single Sunday. So I turn it off. I tune them out. I watch something else. I'll watch a made-for-TV movie. I don't know. I'll watch a Hallmark movie during Christmas over some of this lackluster Lions productivity that we've seen in recent memory.
Yeah.
And Kerryon Johnson hasn't been playing. I loved watching him. He's exciting at least, but he hasn't been playing. Kenny Galladay is the only guy right now that really excites me and gets me going on a Sunday afternoon or a Monday morning. There's not much out there for the Lions right now, and Ziggy's hurt, and he's not coming back. He won't be a Lion moving forward. There's not a lot of exciting aspects and elements of the Lions as we speak here, Doc.
You're absolutely right. And so, hashtag we suffer together. That's what happens. And now the Lions have been officially eliminated.
Good
They're
God,
no
right? It was a
longer-
long time coming anyways.
Yes, they're not going to be in the playoffs, and that's what's going to happen. We now turn our attention to the NFL draft like everybody else. 2019 is going to be a big year for the Lions. A lot of money, a lot of cap space, and they got a lot of draft picks, so they have to improve the team. All right, to end the podcast, you got a couple news and notes in the world of entertainment. Hit me with something from Vito's notebook. What's happening?
Matt Damon hosted a great episode, year finale, end of the year finale of SNL. Actually did his impersonation of Brett Kavanaugh once again, which I think is perfect. Brought the energy, acting as Brett Kavanaugh, so I thought I was perfect in doing that. And he was a host, and it was a great, 2018 ending edition of SNL. The best one I think they've done all season long so far, and hopefully some more good episodes are produced and happen in 2019, and looking forward to that. But I would love to bring back Matt Damon because, once again, he was superb. And they did this It's a Wonderful Life parody to open up the show in their cold open. I don't know if you have seen It's a Wonderful Life, which I haven't, but they did It's a Wonderful Trump, in which Trump acted, or, was a world in which Trump wasn't president. And I thought that was very funny as well, Doc.
Do you think you could relate to what skit was my favorite?
About Weezer? Did you see that one where Matt Damon... They were talking about Weezer. No. Which one was your favorite? Oh, with the kids?
Yes. It was so hilarious. I taped it. No. I taped it. It was the skit where he talks and he's sitting on the couch with his wife after a long day. And she's like, did you enjoy anything? And did you enjoy the day? Did anything go down? He's like, honey, I love you. And everything's going well. And all of a sudden the day recaps. And it's the kids waking up at 5 a.m. and the farting relative. Everyone drinking so much. It was so funny because that's exactly what it's like when you got kids. It's tough. It's a grind. But in the end, even though it's tough, even in the way they ended it, even a bad day is a good day. And so it definitely reflected everything that goes on for families. And so that was my favorite skit. And he did a good job. And I thought it was great.
He was good in everything.
He was good in
even went
everything.
on the SNL Weekend Update and he did something there. So he was a boxer. He was Tommy or something. Then his wife, Angel, right, was on there. That was a good back and forth. And Cecily Strong was the mom, was the wife in that pre-recorded video that was played, that was done before actually the airing of SNL, in which they talked about their kids and Christmas Day and how it wasn't the best, but they called it the best, Christmas or day ever. But dealing with your kids, man, I know you have to deal with that too.
Exactly.
And it was a very good recap of that, and I guess what has happened for you in the past and what happens for mothers and fathers out there, of young kids especially, that are excited for Santa to come and excited for Christmas and to open up the gifts.
All right, so what's a former apprentice staffer saying about Trump? What caught your attention, Vito?
Well, I thought this was interesting. A former staffer named Noel Kassler coming out and saying that Donald Trump is a speed freak. In his words, a speed freak is what he labeled Donald Trump as. I guess that's why he's had some problems with his nose in the past. You know, a bad case of the sniffles in the past, which he's done in his press conferences, when speaking to the nation, when speaking to fellow dignitaries. Maybe now we know the true reason why he's dealt with these sniffles, Doc. And I found it hilarious, and I find it truthful. Once again, maybe he has something to win through this by making this accusation. Maybe it is untrue and it's just a wild accusation. But still, man, it is darn hilarious, I think. What do you think about this accusation made by a former apprentice staffer?
Well, speaking of noses, did you get a chance to see the picture of Artie Lang's nose?
No.
Oh, my
What
gosh.
has happened to him and his nose?
He's kind of fallen off the wagon again.
He's a
And his
man that's
nose-
done drugs
his-
throughout the years.
There's a photo of him in court where his nose looks like it's basically smashed up into his face.
Really?
And it's really sad because that's what happens through years of abuse of drugs. It's a really sad photo. I mean, I think it should be plastered all over everything, all over places where people are getting treated because it's a sad look. You can Google it, Artie Lang's nose, and that photo is heartbreaking. But in this kind of thing, you know what?
Do you laugh at it? I mean,
know what,
what do
Vito?
you think about it? Do you
Here's what
think
I
it's
say.
real, too?
Here's what I say. You know what? When you hear stories of Donald Trump staying up till all hours of the day and being that
On
productive.
Twitter?
Yeah, exactly. So you realize, is he maybe using Adderall? He might be. But that's, you know what? I don't care. You know, in the end,
You don't care that he's crushing up Adderall
No.
and snorting it?
No.
Our president is crushing up Adderall and snorting it?
Vito, the
John,
country
come on.
nationwide,
How dare you?
nationwide, the country's going to a all legal marijuana, nation pretty
Well,
soon.
what's
it's
worse?
gonna-
I don't know what's worse, actually. Crushing up Adderall and snorting it or doing
But
marijuana. Smoking
if you
marijuana.
crush Adderall and you're able to make $1 billion and you help out the country for some people, then you handle your business. Look, you know what? For me, I never use Adderall. Coffee's just fine. I try to do as much as possible. But you know what? If I was trying to be a billionaire and I needed to stay up, 20 hours out of 24,
Time out. Are you
might do it.
advocating doing Adderall?
Do it. It's
Well, you
speed.
would crush it up and do it to become a billionaire.
Well,
Advocating for me, then? Should I go into Adderall and consuming it, Doc?
to make it relatable to you, back in the day, a lot of baseball players use greenies, is what they
Use
called.
roids, PEDs, to enhance
Not
themselves.
roids. Yeah, they did.
Amphetamines?
Amphetamines.
Yeah, you're talking about that.
Yeah,
Got
and
ya.
so it's tested out and stuff like that. But look, people do what they got to do, and I don't advocate it. Obviously, I would say.
Oh, I thought you were.
No, I would say that if you need to focus better, just go to your doctor and say, "I can't focus." That's the code word. But I would.
You get
say,
something good out of the doctor, huh?
Exactly. But I would say the healthy use of anything is fine. Look, if you take it and you feel like you can focus better, then take one. I don't advocate crushing it and snorting
yeah, just
it.
running a row
snorting
in a
Adderall.
line, right?
Yeah, we don't snort
Not doing
Adderall.
that, but do it in moderation, as with anything, right?
Exactly.
Even with the legalization of marijuana, probably do that in moderation. With alcohol consumption, drink that in moderation, right? And with Adderall, if you're going to crush it up and snort it, just don't do a line of Adderall.
Right.
Right? I mean, I guess it gets yourself going, and I guess it's helped out Donald Trump. I mean, he's made it to the presidency, so I'm not going to say good for him, and I'm not going to advocate it, but it does work for some people. But I guess go to your doctor and get something else prescribed in the grand
Exactly.
scheme of things. Now, I live on pure adrenaline. Matt
Exactly.
Damon in that skit as Brett Kavanaugh, man, his impersonation once again, I just love it. I love that parody of Brett Kavanaugh. He was great at host. Donald Trump as host of the White House, let's say. I'm still thinking and saying, not great, Doc.
Great podcast recording, sir. You can follow Vito on Twitter at Vito Jerome. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. You can follow the show at Two Bad Hombres on Twitter. If you've agreed or disagreed with anything that you've heard today on this podcast, definitely feel free to leave a voicemail, 248-579-8686. If you're funny, I'll air it, and it'll go worldwide. And if it doesn't pass the test, it hits the cutting room floor, like some people have tried. And unfortunately,
Somebody
that's the way it
has.
goes. Somebody has.
Yeah, so we'll go nameless here.
So, Vito, I enjoyed podcasting with you. Definitely check out Vito's work. He's sitting down with a lot of dignitaries. He's doing great work. He's getting into NASCAR, building relationships. And so Vito's doing great things, and we support him 100% here in the network. So I've enjoyed broadcasting with you. If this is our last one of the year, it's a good time, man. I'm looking forward to broadcasting. And Two Bad Hombres made some news as well. We had a tweet that went viral. We did good. A lot of likes, a lot of retweets in terms of discussing things. We didn't do it in the last couple weeks in terms of these social issues, but I think one's coming probably. Check out at Two Bad Hombres, where we ask some important social questions and get some debate riled up, not only in the world of sports, but other stuff too.
I've got a bad case of the sniffles too, but I don't do Adderall.
Can you focus?
Trust me.
Do you have focus
I get
problems?
focus. No, I get focus pretty darn well. I don't think I need Adderall.
Wrong answer, Vito. That doesn't get you the script.
a wonderful show. It has been, definitely. And Merry Christmas to everyone out there, and to you and yours. Adios.